Hello there folks. It is not the sunniest day today. It's not supposed to be either, but still I felt like it's not windy right now, and it felt like okay to do the part 2 of my vinyl and CD update. For those of you who missed part 1, all I can say is, what did you do that was so damn important? Just kidding. I will leave a link to it in the description area. But there I showed my 45 that I found during the summer, which was large stack. So I felt like this will be a too long video if I will take them all in one video. So I had to split them up in 2 parts. So in this second part I will show the full length. And I said in the first video that the summer have been started really slow. I felt like this might be not the best summer when it comes to findings, but then it just and everything fell over me. A whole lot of albums from the final part of the summer in different kind of formats. So overall, I can't say I'm disappointed with the summer. So let's show this large stack. Starting off with some soul from 2 total different kind of eras. This is Sly and Family Stone, a compilation from a label called New Sound 2000. I think this is some kind of a more low budget compilation. But it was sealed when I bought it, and I felt like I don't have anything by Sly and the Family Stone, so I definitely got to start somewhere. And we go way forward in time to the 90s, and this by girl group SWV, Sisters with Voices, and the greatest hits. SWV, who in the 90s had hits in the USA, at least, maybe not that big in Sweden though, but with Right Here and Weak. And I'm a little weak for this kind of 90s smooth soul, and very, very interesting. So we take this. More compilations, this time by The Cure. This I don't think is an official compilation by The Cure. I think this is a part of kind of a series with compilation by different British bands released by BMG. But still it's a Cure compilation, and I got it very cheap for $1. I thought it's definitely, why not? And this I was very happy for. I was in a desperate need of a new copy of this one, but it was very expensive actually everywhere I went. I don't think I've seen it any cheaper than for $20, and now I managed to find it for in a double CD box set for $5. So I'm very happy. Depeche Mode's live album 101. So really great to finally have this. Now I think I have complete with Depeche Mode's studio stuff, official releases that is. Then it is of course some bootlegs and so on. We take some easy listening, Edmundo Ross. It's not often I find a Edmundo Ross compilation on CD, especially not one released by Universal, so I thought that this is definitely interesting, as I do like Edmundo Ross' easy listening style. Now it is all jazz on CD. We have Sooth Sims, Down Home, released by Affinity, a label that may have maybe not the best logo type, but it is a label that I'm starting to enjoy more and more, as I have found so much great on this label, and this is Sooth Sims Quartet, recorded in July 1960 with these musicians. So this is going to be very, very interesting. Live album, live by Stan Kenton live in Europe, and it doesn't say here any word of when it is recorded. The album itself is from 1977, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is from the 70s. But it is a newer one. I could hear that from the quick peeks I did. And it's live Stan Kenton jazz, so definitely gotta have this one. Here's the CD with A Man with a Tragic Story. This is a musician I heard the first time when I was young, in my first jazz years in a Swedish radio show. And his name is Dick Twardzik, a pianist, bop pianist from the 50s. And then, for a number of decades, he went under the radar for me, as I didn't hear anything by him until I found this CD. So it's nice to get to know him again and listen to him more closely. Dick Twardzik was a very young talent that was a good friend with Sir Chaloff and his family, and he got hooked up with Charlie Parker. He played with Chet Baker and Dizzy Gillespie and so on, and of course Sir Chaloff, and with that, those all had their share of drug problems, and then with that Dick Twardzik also fell into the drug trap and became an addict as well. And while on tour with Chet Baker back in 1955, he died of a heroin overdose, only 24 years old. So very, very sad person dying so young, especially that had this talent. He released only 2 albums by himself, or with a trio, but where he plays solo. And those 2 have been put together by Lone Hill Jazz in this CD with complete recordings by Dick Twardzik. And it is really, really great. You can hear that he has influences from both Bud Powell and Lenny Tristano, 2 of my favorites. So really, really great. There's no telling where he would have gone if he would have survived. But really great to have this. Another pianist in a little more different style was George Shearing, a pianist that I'm not I don't listen all that much to, because that he's done some great songs, but he's done them way too many times, over and over. That being said, that many of his songs sounds pretty much alike at times. He has the way of playing together with the guitar player and with different kind of clarinetist and saxophonist, and playing all together in different kind of harmonies, and it sounds great, sounds cozy, but it gets a little bit tiring to hear it over and over. But it is great songs as well, and I felt like definitely it would be interesting to have at least one compilation by George Shearing, so definitely, why not? Now, Ella Fitzgerald again. I think 2022 will be the year of the year of the Ella, because I found so much with her. In beginning of the year, I showed this, Ella Returns to Berlin, which is more or less a follow-up to a much more famous Ella Fitzgerald live concert from Berlin. This is definitely a good recording by Ella. Definitely a great one. But then it is Lou Levy who is the pianist here, and he is not bad, but he is more like your average everyday person that you have back when you're singing. He doesn't do anything special. It's Ella's show and so on. You can say that you don't have the same glue as she does with the pianist on this one, because I managed to find the more famous Ella in Berlin, Mac the Knife, winner of Grammys also. And the pianist here is Paul Smith Quartet, and they have a whole different kind of chemistry when they play, when she plays with this trio. And Paul Smith is doing funny stuff between the songs and so on, and you can hear that they play much better together than they do with this. So this is actually an even better performance than this is actually. Understandable that it won Grammys. But of course both stays. So, but it was really fun to find this one also. Now we're going to go to real old jazz. I like 20s jazz pretty much. If it is the more that sounds like early kind of swing, like dancing orchestras, or you can hear that it's more swinging style than just Dixieland style, because a whole lot of early jazz also of course sounded more like New Orleans jazz naturally, but I rather listen to older New Orleans jazz, older recordings, than I listen to newer ones. So, and it's also a huge part of the jazz history. So it was really fun to dig deep down and back in older jazz, in the jazz beginning, and which I did by buying albums by King Oliver. This is New York Sessions 29 to 30, released on Bluebird, the sub-label for RCA B&G. And here we're talking really genuine New Orleans style, but it is really old and nice recordings, and really cozy actually. So really fun to have. And I also bought this by King Oliver, the complete Joseph King Oliver 1923 to 31 Heritage, Volume 6, 29 to 31. Here you can hear he plays at in some songs songs that sounds a little bit more swinging style, extremely early big band style. It's released by KJ King Jazz, a label that was owned by another jazz legend, Mesro. So it's fun to start discover King Oliver. I don't have all that much by him. More in the same style is this Lanin's Southern Serenaders. Lanin, not Lenin, was one of three brothers. This is Sam Lanin. The three brothers had a band each, and during the earliest part of jazz history, and this is an album called Shake It and Break It, with recordings from 1921 to 22. So I might say that this is the earliest jazz recordings that I have actually on record. Continuing with older jazz, I was sitting waiting for a bus one summer day during this July, and listening in my phones to an older episode of the Swedish radio jazz show Smoke Rings, a classic one, and there he played songs by the Casaloma Orchestra, which those albums I have by the Casaloma Orchestra are normal 40s big band style. Here he played really early Casaloma recordings from the 20s, and it sounded really good. It sounded more like that kind of a really early big band dance style that I like from early jazz. And I felt like maybe I should try to find a record with older Casaloma recordings. It didn't even take me 1 week until I found this. Casaloma Orchestra, Casaloma Stomp, presenting the earliest recording of the Casaloma Orchestra, 29 to 30, with rare alternate performances. So seek and you will find. We have a live concert with Lester Young. This is Lester in Washington, D.C., 1956, Volume 1. Released on Pablo. This is a recording from Olivia Davis' Patio Lounge, December 7th, 56. This concert is a really good one, even though it is more or less Lester Young's show. In the back here plays a trio led by Bill Potts, and the Bill Potts trio is more or less the home band for Olivia Davis' Patio Lounge. It is nothing special. He does what he should, playing in the back, but it is nothing special. This is Lester Young's show, so it is Lester who saves this concert, but it is a great one still. So really fun to have. This is Ellington, the Duke's Men Small Groups, Volume 1, released on Jazz Heritage Masterpieces. This is a box set with 2 CDs and consisting band members from the Ellington band in their own small bands. We have names like Rex Stewart and the 52nd Street Stompers. We have Barnaby Garden's Jazzopators. We have Cootie Williams and his Rug Cutters. The Gotham Stompers. Can't deny the imagination they had back then. So really fun to have. This might wind up pretty high when the year's coming to a summer in December. And I also found this. Now we're getting into the vinyl. Released on Giants of Jazz, Duke Ellington and the Small Groups. Here we have pretty much the same band names as on this, but it's only one song that was on this one, so it's the other one I don't have either. So really fun to find this one. Giants of Jazz. You never know where you have them. Sometimes they release the most ordinary stuff, sometimes they release stuff that I don't have. We have Dizzy Gillespie. This is The Many Faces of Jazz. Parisal Playel, I think it says February 28th, 1948. A live concert. This is a great concert, with the only exception that he maybe uses the bongo drums a little too much in almost every song, but it is still a great concert. This is a little specialty. Benny Goodman, The King Direct to Disc, released on Century Records, and it is for once not a compilation. This is an original recorded in June 1978. So this is the newest Benny Goodman I have, and only 6 years before his death. So it's pretty fun to have. We're coming to Stan Getz. This is Getz the Master, the Contemporary Master Series. this I wasn't that pleased with. It is recorded in 1975, and here it is way too much avant-garde style for my tastes. So it's not my style really. So this will not stay in the collection. But I gave it a chance anyway. Then this is way more interesting. Stan Getz Quartet, the Stockholm concert. This is a Swedish release, as this is a concert in Sweden, recorded in Stockholm 1983, which I think is also his death year. So I think this might be one of the last recordings by him. So with these musicians, so really interesting. And speaking of certain jazz musicians passing, the Essential Lester Young, a Verve release. It doesn't say when the recordings are from, but I would assume that it is somewhere down on in the 50s also. This contains a chronicle by Ralph J. Gleason, written only a week after Lester Young's passing in 1959. So it's a little memorial chronicle also here. Angry Tenors. Why is it called that? I don't know. But it was a very interesting compilation, as I do like small bands from the 40s. And here are small bands from 1944 to 1946, with bands led by I Quebec, Illinois Jacquet, and Dan Webster. So this is right in my backyard, which is really fun to find. How about some Oscar Peterson? 3 Oscar Peterson albums I managed to find. First, a couple from his German days. This is from 1970. Released, of course, then on MPS. That Oscar Peterson was working very close with back then. This is, I think, a reissue that from an album that is originally released on MPS. This is Oscar Peterson Great Connection with these musicians, and recorded in 1971 at MPS Studios in West Germany. So it is released on MPS, but it is recorded on MPS but released on PA USA, that I never heard of actually. And this is a more traditional Oscar Peterson with the traditional trio Ray Brown and Thigpen from 1959, originally a Verve release, here reissued by Memoir Jazz. The Oscar Peterson Trio swing the great standards. We have some jazz with organ. Eddie Lockjaw Davis Quintet with Shirley Scott, prestige release, Jaws in Orbit. And this is a really great and groovy album if you like Hammond jazz like me. This one I was really happy to find. I've shown before a soundtrack for a movie called I Want to Live, a movie about a prostitute who gets framed or accused for a murder she didn't commit, and how she gets sentenced to death row. I haven't seen that movie, but now maybe I will. That soundtrack consisted a big band led by Johnny Mandel playing Johnny Mandel arrangements of songs from the movie, and there were 2 soundtracks from that movie. because in the movie it is also a small band playing, led by Jerry Mulligan, and they also released an album, a jazz combo from I Want to Live, which also is arranged by John Mandel. So this is really, really great. Also another album that might wind up pretty high on Album of the Year when that time comes. Quincy Jones has arranged this album with Frank Sinatra and Count Basie Orchestra. It might as well be swing. I've seen this one before and I didn't buy it back then, but I got interested in it as Quincy Jones has arranged it. And it's not often I buy Frank Sinatra albums, but this was really great. Maybe one of the best Frank Sinatra albums that I have. Continuing with Count Basie, here is Basie, Count Basie, and he has the license to swing. Basie meets Bond, Count Basie and his orchestra, and he plays songs from the first 4 James Bond movies. This is really, really nice, really fun to hear the big band versions of these famous James Bond themes / songs. Only thing is that maybe he could have been a little more experimental with the arrangements, more like Quincy Jones style. Sounds traditional Count Basie style on this, but it is still a great, great album, really fun to have. Now we're leaving jazz for this time. For the remaining we go to the 70s. Roberta Flack and the classic Killing Me Softly. It's a good album, it's a great album, but not as great as everybody say it is. But still it will stay in the collection, and it is contains some really great songs. Partridge Family time, so buckle up. Partridge Family album, and we have Partridge Family Sound Magazine. Really soft and nice sounding. And speaking of soft and nice sounding, a compilation, America's Greatest Hits History. Normally I don't buy that much compilations by artists that isn't complete. And this is released back in 1975, so it's far from a complete compilation. My favorite America album is Hideaway from 1979, I think, and that album is then, of course, not represented here. But I felt also like it is a kind of an ordinary album to have in America collection, and until I find the complete one, definitely this one stays, because this is really, really great sounding. I really like it. And we have a pilot album, Second Flight. This is a band that I have an album since before with, and I was really, really happy for it, because it's really, really great sounding. And that one, like this one, is produced by Alan Parsons. This is from 1975. So I have nothing but high hopes for this one. And finally, Elton John, Here and There, which is a live album from 2 different places, one on each side. One side from London, Royal Festival Hall, and one from Madison Square Garden in New York. 76 is the release from this year for this one. So that was my summer 2022 when it comes to findings. So let's see what autumn brings. So I don't know how many more balcony videos I will do, but we'll see. We'll take one day at a time. So until next time, I hope that every one of you have a real nice time, no matter where you are, no matter what you do. Take care and so long.